what you say, liberal with me. That's all I can say. Yeah, but I will start taking up the questions, and just this is a very freewheeling conversation about on my channel, and that is the reason why I wanted to have this particular conversation. Hi, Madhav, Nikhil. I'm glad that you are finding it very useful, and I'm just very happy that you guys really appreciate with your feedback, are very vocal with your feedback, and that actually helps me to keep myself up to date. Lot of questions that you ask actually force me to explore certain things and come back with the responses. Most of the times I reply a scenario where I created a new set of videos just to address that particular scenario. So yeah, I mean, always do that. Whatever, whenever if you face any issues based on whatever. I think let me address the first question. So there is one thing which is called as native application development, native Android application development, and for which the programming languages we typically use is Kotlin and Java. I personally don't have any what you say major a preference in terms of whether I should use Kotlin or Java, depending upon whoever is in the team and what kind of team configuration that I have. If there are more Kotlin developers and people want to use Kotlin, I will use Kotlin. But otherwise, I come from a legacy Java development background, so it may happen that most of the time I end up doing a Java native application development. But in terms of cross-platform application development, there are various choices. But nowadays, I have seen that a lot of people actually use Flutter. But I personally, even I have done cross-platform application development, but I started way back, I think 4 or 5 years back, when I started using PhoneGap or Cordova. But then I switched to React Native. So for last couple of months, or I would say, again the reason being, I know JavaScript, and since I know JavaScript, it becomes very easy to pick up on things like React Native. But if you want to do cross-platform development and you have not come across React Native before and you have not done any JavaScript-based development, and this is completely a very new thing for you, then I would suggest you can go for Flutter. Flutter, it's completely a new platform by Google, and it uses a new programming language. It is not JavaScript use. It is by Google, of course. So yeah, I mean, you can choose that. So it is up to which one you want to do, whichever that you feel comfortable. Most of the times, what is it is mainly dictated by how the environment in which they are working in. If the company has a lot of JavaScript developers, then automatically there will be a little bit more bias towards choosing React Native as the cross-platform in that particular group. But if they don't have that kind of any hangups, then I see people do take up Flutter as the preferred React Native development platform. So I would say just choose whichever is more comfortable that you are with. Uh, the difference in terms of the performance, they say that Flutter is slightly better because of the basically at the underlying level how they function. There is a slight difference between a React Native and Flutter, but nothing significant that should force you to choose a particular platform. React Native is relatively new. React Native is relatively very old cross-platform when compared to Flutter. So if at all you are stuck somewhere, you will get the port. But Flutter, they say the documentation is very good, comparatively very good with respect to React Native. But yeah, I mean, whichever you feel you are more comfortable with, I suggest you actually choose that. So yeah, Yeah, I hope, Sumit, that you got my take on your question. Sushant has asked the next question, sir. How these big e-commerce app handle huge amount of images uh, with caching and a smooth user experience? Uh, Sushant, yeah, I mean, you have to basically write a highly performant application. What happens is, in most of the times, there is a very highly dedicated team with the backend integration. For the mobile applications, they don't use very high resolution images so that the mobile application, which is a client side application, can download the images very quickly. And the amount of time it takes to download that image also shouldn't take too much. And given the screen sizes on the mobile phones are very small, we don't really need very high resolution images. Decent is good enough. So there is a lot of what you say synchronization and lot of effort goes into in building the backend, which is highly well oriented towards what you say supporting highly performant client side applications. And when I say client side applications, in this case, the mobile applications. That is one part that is basically optimizing the backend to suit the client side applications. Now, coming to the mobile application itself, there also you have to make sure that you do a lot of good programming practices to make sure that the applications doesn't do any memory leaking. You make sure that the applications are very performant by adhering to some of the good programming practices. There are certain set of things that you can do. For example, one of the problem mistakes people do is how they load the list view in the mobile application in an Android application. So they do something called as a lazy loading that just improves the performance of the application. So there are some concepts that you need to learn to really understand how these things can be done. So I hope that helps, Sushant. Uh, and I can see Rocky sir, web takeover the mobile app development. I don't think so. I mean, let me rephrase the question that you have said. You seem to think that the web development will take over the mobile application development. Uh, I think probably it's a category of people who will get into a one upmanship over version is going to be whole and soul. See, at the end of the day, when I say web takeover, everything has to happen in the web. And no matter mobile application can leverage getting better and better. But that some people will, and some people actually don't mind going for pure native mobile application. And these things are mainly dictated by the requirements of the clients and how much time, money, effort, and the engineering team configuration the development team has. So I would say these are the things that typically dictate whether in a particular scenario web will take over the mobile development. But I personally feel them to be either web development or development. Ashwath has asked a question, sir, will you do to Ashwath, I can do it, but the thing is, there is no such thing called as a one universal app which contains all the features of a particular platform. I mean, you can concentrate on one thing. Probably you can talk services and how to use the services in an app, and you can talk about how to use the fragments, how to use a fragment in combination, say diagnosis, or you can use a broadcast receiver in conjunction with a service and with an app. So my typical take on tutorial is concentrate on the fundamentals, explain them in as much a better way as possible, and let the audience connect the dots and put the effort to create a wholesome application based on the concepts that I have explained in the individual tutorial series. I feel that approach is much better, and that is what I have seen based on the responses from all of you guys, from the various people who have seen my tutorials and the commentators. So that is the main, what you say, guiding factor for me when I decide to do a tutorial series on a particular topic. Most of the time, I actually get suggestions. We want this particular topic, we want that particular topic. That has actually led to a lot of tutorial series. So yeah, I mean, I just concentrate basic. If you know fundamentals, I believe that anybody can basically use those fundamentals to build any fully functioning complete app. Uh, Smith Prajapati, where are you from? Okay, I am from Karnataka. I am from actually Dharwad. There is a place called as Dharwad in the middle of Karnataka, but I am based out of Bangalore, and that is where my karma bhumi is. If you probably you mean to say to just keep different mindset. What works for one will not work for another person. So one way is I always make sure that whenever a new Android version gets released, I go to their Google I/O conference videos and just have a look at what are all the new things that they are talking about. And if they are talking about something significantly more than the other, that basically means that is something major thing that they have done in that particular version of Android. That is one thing. And then you also have a lot of this is a new thing that they have come up with. Have you used it? So that also gives a lot of guiding factor. And then a lot of these, what you say, online resources where if you register yourself, they send a weekly update or a monthly update about the latest libraries and the latest, what you say, best practices, architectures that are being used in the any particular software engineering field. I'm not talking about just Android application development. It could be anything. It could be even AI for that matter. So depending upon your personal interest, you can choose these topics and register yourself for the mailers. And every once in a week, you get these mailers and take your time to read through what you get in these mailers. And if you find something very interesting, just try to explore that a little bit more. That helps a lot. So yeah, I mean, this is one of the way. And the best way is if something is really bothering you, I suggest just sit down, take your time, and what you say, do a small code snippet that irons out a lot of doubts that you might be having. So yeah, this is the approach that I typically follow. And also another thing is, as you become more and more experienced, you need not have to sit and actually write each and every code snippet. You can even just discuss with your colleagues or your friends or even your seniors who are still into, say, hands-on coding. And as you talk out these issues, you become just better. So that actually helps a lot. So there is not one single way. You have to basically take multiple approach to keep yourself up to date. So hope I think I have answered your question, Shrikant. So thanks. Is learning RX Java still worth it? So if you are still using Java for the mobile application development, then I would say RX Java is still worth it. But if you have moved on to say Kotlin for doing the Android application development, then I would say RX Java is very rarely used. I mean, it doesn't even come into picture. So if you are still using Java, I would say better learn RX Java. It basically just what you say builds on top of Java 1.8 capabilities. So it helps to use RX Java. I have few friends who still use RX Java in Android application development. But for those who have started using Kotlin, people have moved on to coroutines and those concepts. So yeah, I think you got the answer, Chinmay. Amit Prajapati Love from Mumbai. Thanks, Amit. Then we have PWA versus a mobile app development. Uh, if I understand, PWA are basically non-installable applications, which basically work like easily accessible applications. I have seen these things, but I have not worked on it. But most of the times, what happens is the general direction the PWA development takes into is they pretty soon realize that it actually doesn't solve the most of the problems. So people actually go for a cross-platform application development who initially had thought of PWA as the answer to application development. So I have not done it personally, any PWA, but yeah, I have seen this is where it typically goes in the direction. They initially get started with the PWA, but they actually move more towards what you say cross-platform application development. So, Ria Maina has a question. Sorry in case I am pronouncing your names and botching up your names. So sorry for that. Telephony manager and SMS sending and receiver app. I had actually thought about it, but what I felt was it was very easy. The API itself, basically how to send a SMS, receive a SMS. I felt it was too easy, and it is just a few number of lines of code. Anybody who will just search online will pretty much get a very full-fledged code about that. So that is the reason why I did not do a tutorial on that, because probably it will be just one single video if I really want to do it. So I will not be even be able to complete any major thing. That is the reason why I did not do. But yeah, I mean, you can just search online. This is not very complicated. This is definitely not complicated. You will end up doing application development. So hope that answers your question, Ria. Sagar, uh, we have another question here. Sir, will you do tutorials? Sorry, hello. Do you have plan to do sessions on data structures and algorithms? No, Sagar, no plans. Uh, because that is not the main reason why I created this tutorial, this channel. This channel is mainly about the Android application development and mainly about, say, anything related to mobile application development. Uh, I, I mean, for the sake of doing, I may do it, but I feel there are many other resources on YouTube which do so much better job than me in explaining these concepts, data structures and algorithms. And sometimes I myself go through some of those tutorials. So if I don't have anything more to add, or if I don't have anything better way to tell something, then there is really no point in making tutorials on that particular thing. It will be just a waste recognition and biometric concepts. Only the thing is, I and I will have these tutorials in between whatever the little time that I get out of my official times. So yeah, sometimes when I complete my commitment to the current tutorial series that I am currently doing, and if I get some time, I can actually do take up those things. Uh, yeah, thanks for that question. Aditya, he has a question. Sir, I learned Android application development that I could be of. And Gaurav, congratulations, Anilji. Thanks so much. You are an inspiration to all of us. Thank you for creating tutorials. Will you be creating tutorials on RX? Let's see. I mean, I cannot commit on it. Right now, I am more interested in towards completing certain things that I have been doing, and I think I need to concentrate more on the Kotlin series. Right now, you might be aware that I am doing Kotlin tutorials, and after completing basic fundamentals of the Kotlin, I am planning to do Kotlin-based Android development of how to use Kotlin for Android development. Because at the end of the day, you still use service, you still use a fragment activity, same concepts. Only the thing is the syntaxes will change. Instead of using a Java syntax, you will end up using the Kotlin syntax, and probably because Kotlin just makes it a little bit easier, you will write lesser number of lines to do that. So yeah, I mean, that is my take on that. And it really doesn't make sense for me to create a full-fledged Kotlin-based Android development tutorial. Java, it has not been an what you say overnight creation. It has taken me almost 4 years to create this body of work which you guys are seeing. So if I decide to do a Kotlin-based tutorials full-fledged for Android development, then it may take another 4 years. So I think I can do something much more fruitful rather than doing that. So yeah, this is what I feel. Manoj, uh, thanks. Then, sir, please make videos on media application using media session, media browsing service, and media controller interface. Yeah, I think mainly you are talking about audio, video capabilities of the Android API. I am planning to do that sometime in future as a part of the regular Android development tutorial series. I want to do that. Let's see when the time will come. So thanks for that particular question, Aditya. So yeah, I mean, in case you guys are not aware, I have enabled the super chat. I don't. If you are not comfortable, don't use it. But if you are wondering whether it is there or you want to some kind of show some kind of a support and kind of give some kind of a contribution, if you want to do that, do that. But no pressure. It is absolutely perfectly fine if you don't want to do it also. So just post more and more questions, and we will have this conversation. Uh, then I have another question, sir. Please make video on scope storage for Android 10. Manoj, I have not done it. And let me see what it is, and if it is something very interesting enough, let me do it. So sure. Hi, Azan. Good evening, sir. Yeah, good evening, sir. What is the difference between Android RX and RX Java? Uh, Let me put it this way. You have Java, and then there is a Java 1.8 capabilities, which is basically Lambda, and it just Java a little bit more interesting. So using that 1.8 capabilities of Java, they have created another library which is called as RX Java. And then using the RX Java's capabilities, they have created another set of libraries for Android, which uses the RX Java capabilities. So that is what Android RX Java. So they are basically built on top of one another. That is what it is. So I think that answers your question, Azan. So if you want to learn Android RX, you should know RX Java. So it is kind of precedence. Then, sir, is package of an Android developer comparable to a software developer as a fresher? Uh, if I am not wrong, when you say package, you mean to say the compensation, the monetary compensation? I don't think so. I mean, experienced developers are typically Android developer comparable to a software developer as a fresher. I think Android development, I mean, let me put it this way. Android development is like any other software development job. There is nothing, what you say, out of the world things that you will do in Android application development. Of course, there is a much more a cooler factor associated with it because you are basically giving an app in a person's hand to play with. So there is much more visibility than, say, for example, a backend application developer. But that doesn't just take away the complexity involved in it. So I would say, uh, don't you can be a fresher or you can be a fresher Android developer. So it basically boils down to your skill, and what you get paid depends upon how good you are with your skill. Just because that's because you are an Android developer doesn't mean you will get a better package. You have to be a good Android developer, regardless of whether you are a fresher or an auto fresher. And of course, you can't expect a fresher to have same kind of package as probably 5-year experience. It takes time, but at the end of the day, it is mainly associated with your skill and whether you can demonstrate that. That's what matters. Hope that I have answered your question, Kumar. Then we have another question, Manoj Rai. Sir, how does WhatsApp take chat backup locally in Android 10? As in Android 10 external storage directories are deprecated. I cannot quickly answer this particular question, Manoj, because that would need a very intricate understanding of the APIs and how it might do it. But at the end of the day, if external storage directory is deprecated, there has to be an alternative mechanism that Android provides you using which it backs it up. And when I say it backs it up, it could be backing it up to the directly the cloud storage that is associated with the user who has signed on that particular device. It might not be getting backed up in the external storage. It is getting backed up in the cloud storage, which is a Google Drive. So that is what it is. And that is why probably if you recall, it asks for the permission when you use that feature in the application. So that is what it is. But immediately, I may not be able to answer that particular question. We may have to, you may have to dig a little bit further. Daniel, greetings, sir. Your tutorials are great. Thanks a lot, Daniel. Uh, Jace Madison, hi, congratulations. Can you complete the Android series? As I feel few videos are missing in playlist. Two topics are not connected, and few sample application development will be helpful. Jace Madison. Yes, I think it is a continuously under progress series. The mobile application, the Android application development series that I am doing, it is not yet complete. So I keep on picking up newer and newer topics, and I use those topics and complete a series and move on to a next topic. For example, if you have seen my Android tutorial series, I have not actually taught how to actually create a even simple Hello World application. Uh, I directly started with intents and how to call an activity from another activity. So the whole reason why it just happened like that was there is a historical reason for that. The reason is I had actually gone to a particular engineering college and to deliver a guest lecture, and they asked me lot of questions, and they used to repeat same questions again and again. And when I came back to my home, they just used to repeat the same questions, and I just started doing videos from those topics, and that is how it has continued. So I had to actually make certain videos which are kind of what you say backup videos before you actually start going through some of the topics in my Android tutorials. But the thing is, I'm not finding time to those videos because I have been too much busy and committed with some of the topics that I have been currently doing. So yeah, I mean, this is the reason why probably I have not done. But please comment which particular probably missing topics that you would need. It just helps me to make a mental note of them, and in future, probably at appropriate juncture, I will create a tutorial series. So it will not only help you, probably I'm sure it is going to help quite a other set of people as well. So next question, which is the future, Kotlin or Java? I think I have answered it before as well. The main thing I feel is Kotlin is the new kid on the block, and there is a lot of buzz around that particular programming language. Of course, it makes your life easy as a developer because the overall number of lines of code that you may have to write when compared to Java is very, very less. So definitely, whenever any new technology, any framework, or any new platform that comes to the fore, there is always more inclination towards learning that. So I would say you can choose anything, Java and Kotlin. I would say concentrate on both. I mean, if you are going to be a player in the Android application development for quite some time, you will actually end up working on a lot of legacy applications which are written in Java. And you will have to write or play around with a lot of modules which are written in Java. And the way Kotlin itself is designed, they are interoperable between Java. I mean, Java can call Kotlin functions, and Kotlin classes can be intercepted or accessed in the Java classes. So they are interoperable. I have actually seen scenarios where the legacy applications were written in Java, but modules were written in Kotlin. So in a single project, there are some old code which is there in Java, and then there is some new code which is in Kotlin. So the people who want to learn only Kotlin, they will feel handicapped in case they get into such projects. And people who know only Java, they will feel handicapped because the future projects or most of the newer projects are all Kotlin based. So I would say be familiar with both of them if at all you want to feel yourself comfortable in this Android application development landscape. So I think that answers your question, Srikanth. Then we have another thing. Can you please make a series on Android Jetpack navigation, which follows single activity approach? What is your opinion about this navigation? Can we implement this in large scale applications? I have seen people using this. I would say, yeah. I mean, if that Android they have come up with this scenario. Probably they see a scenario where this can be applied. Uh, it's perfectly fine to use that, but just to be a little bit more careful. Just because something is there, it is not like what you say hard and fast rule that you have to stick to it. Be aware of it, and if necessary, it makes sense to use that, then use it. Otherwise, uh, use your approach which makes more sense to you in your application. So yeah, I would say that is my approach. Don't take any platform, any framework, or any library as something that has been cast in stone. That is not the only way to do it, and that is not the right. That should not always be thought as one single right way to do it. You cannot basically create a one single platform or a library which is like a supercar that is not actually even need of the hour. Always do based on what is your need. And if your need feels that it doesn't make sense to use this, then don't use it. There is nothing wrong in not choosing to do it. It is perfectly fine. So I would say that is better approach than simply blindly just following something. Then I have another question here. Shrikant, not Shrikant, Arya Tyagi. Sir, can you make tutorials on using MySQL Workbench as a backend in your Android app using JDBC or SQL? Aryatagi, I think it doesn't actually make sense to use MySQL Workbench as a backend in your Android application. I'm not too sure whether you even use a JDBC in a mobile application. It is a backend application development, and I typically don't concentrate on backend application development on my channel. So I'm not too sure what exactly you are asking, but you can just reply back with a little bit more information. That JDBC, SQL connectors and everything, it sounds more like a pure Java based Java J2E backend development, not to say Android application development. Next question, Shrikant, can you please make videos on something, analyzed the bugs, tricks to resolve the errors? So seems like you want to basically have some kind of a session on how to debug the applications or how to resolve the errors in Android. Yeah, I think interesting comment. Let's see. I mean, if time permits, and if I see enough, what you say, leverage or interest in that particular topic, let me do that. Why not? Uh, Kirti Prasad, hi Anil, your tutorials are great in learning nowadays. There are many changes in Kotlin. We expect tutorials on latest concept in Kotlin. Sure, Kirti, I'm working on that. You will see quite a number of tutorials on Kotlin going forward. So yeah, thanks for that. So sir, your videos are quality better than Google documentation. Shrikant, thanks. I think you are too generous. Thanks a lot. And I think really thanks a lot. And just keep commenting under the videos. That helps a lot. That helps not only you, if whenever I answer that particular question, it even helps other people as well. Because whenever you see any videos, it is not just the videos that you see a lot of comments what people have written, and if somebody had asked a particular doubt, uh, if I have answered them, or if you find that you can answer that particular doubt in a much better way, just be part of the conversation. It basically builds a community of mutually respecting developers who can understand that this basically works. So yeah, please do that. Thanks for that. Azan, you have another question, sir. Please reply my important question. I am currently developing a web browser application. Can I publish AdMob ads on it? Because many say that Google don't allow ads on browser. AdMob, as name itself indicates, is mainly suited for the mobile applications. AdMob, MOB, that stands for mobile. So I don't know if at all you are doing a web development, probably AdMob is not the one that you should look out for. Probably there is something other. I might be wrong also because I have not done any web browser based development. Probably I might be even the wrong person to answer it, but I would suggest that you do a little bit of recheck on that. Thanks. Srihari is the next person who has asked a question. Sir, is native app development dying? React Native and Flutter are booming now. Is that a threat for native app development? I would say it is not a dying art. Native application development and say Flutter, they are becoming better. They are becoming better over the period of time. And yeah, but you can say that native application development is going to be here. It is still going to be there. It's not like one is going to basically uh, overtake the other. Of course, you will see over a period of time, one will be used more in particular scenario than the other one. But that is how it is always. Whenever you choose a particular platform, the client requirements always dictate the requirements. I think as developers, we can technically talk about why one particular way is better than the other, but most of the times the businesses really don't care as long as they get a proper functioning mobile app. How you develop it, whether it is developed using a React Native, Flutter, Cordova, PhoneGap, Xamarin, Titanium, it doesn't really matter. So only it is we technical people who get into this kind of discussion that what is the uh, particular framework is going to be their future. Probably it makes sense from our perspective to get into this kind of debate because ultimately it is we who have to learn it. So yeah, but I would say they are going to remain. Both of native development and React Native development are going to. So the Android always releases its new API on native. It doesn't directly releases it on React Native or Flutter. And whatever the native can do, that only the cross platforms can do. So cross platforms cannot bypass what native applications can do or can't do. So native application development is always going to be there. You can't say that it is going to go away. Uh, then you have Gaurav asking, sir, how do you architect an application when you start from scratch? What things do you consider before you start working on it? Gaurav, I think the architecting of a mobile application is really, really very big topic. I don't know how confidently I can answer this particular question within whatever the little time frame that I have. But it's mainly I think you have to decide on what the mobile application is supposed to do. I think from the mobile application perspective, it is mainly related to deciding on what kind of backend support you need, whether it is ready, what kind of say notifications integration, that is push notification integration that you need, and the internationalization support that you want for your mobile application, and then how complex your application is, how many screens are there, how the screen layout looks, how the flow looks, and based on that, you typically for the client side application you typically choose either MVC or MVP or MVVM, and nowadays even say clean code architecture or a MVI architecture. I would say they all of them have certain advantages and disadvantages, but as a developer, we need to be aware of all of them. And once you team come to a consensus on deciding which particular architecture you are going to adhere to, you just adhere to it and don't make major fuss about it, and then stick to it and strictly follow that particular architecture rather than once again getting into a debate of which one is better than the other. Of course, in certain aspects, one will be better than the other. But once you arrive at a consensus, there is no really point in getting into unnecessary debate on which one is better. They are all are in one way or the other way better at certain things. Uh, already have a tutorial series on the Android app architecture, that is where I am talking about, say, MVC, MVP, and MVVM. So yeah, I mean, you can go through that, but I don't know whether if that is the only thing that you were talking about. Uh, so yeah, I think Rameshwar, Tarai, and Gaurav, they contributed to Super Chat. Thanks a lot. You felt that it could help me. So definitely, thanks for your contribution and support. Aman, I think you have a question, sir. Should I learn retrofit directly, or should I start with basics like HTTP, URL connection, and OK HTTP, and then learn retrofit for networking? Aman, if you are completely new about API integration, that is what it means to call a HTTP RESTful request, what it means, what is a GET, what is a POST, how it works, what happens when you make a HTTP request, how you send a request, what is the response, how to process the response. If you are completely novice and you don't know anything about it, then I suggest you start learning from the HTTP URL connection, and then you slowly move towards later. For example, say go to then OK HTTP, retrofit, then Volley. I actually have a very detailed tutorial series on my channel on how to do RESTful web integration. So please go through that particular tutorial series. That really helps. And I have taken care to make sure that I cover pretty much everything there. I cover the what you call as the HTTP URL connection. I cover the OK HTTP. I cover the retrofit. I cover even the Volley. So Volley is also another tutorial, another RESTful say RESTful client integration library that is very popularly used in Android application development. So yeah, feel free to explore that. So Srihari, so I hope Aman, I have answered your question. Thanks for that. And thanks Gaurav, thanks Srihari for contributing, and Srikant, thanks a lot. Then we have another question. Have you tried iOS app development? Srihari, yes, I have tried iOS app development, and I have tried iOS native application development using Swift. I had tried learning Objective C also quite some time back, but personally speaking, nothing against iOS developers. I hated the syntax of Objective C, and I could not actually master it quite well. So that is the reason why I actually had left the hope of becoming a native iOS developer. But when Swift came, and when I realized the syntax of Swift is so much easy when compared to say Objective C. I mean, if you know JavaScript or say Java, Swift is pretty easy. And especially if you are learning Kotlin, the syntax of Kotlin is so much similar to Swift. You will see that the syntax of Kotlin is more near to Swift than Java. So if you are learning Kotlin or if you are already familiar with Kotlin, learning Swift is 1 week's cake time. So you should be able to learn iOS development pretty easily. And yeah, I mean, I like iOS app development. The whole ecosystem itself is different, and iOS takes a slightly different approach towards how much freedom it gives to the developer about what you can do and can't do. But yeah, I mean, I think initially when you are getting started with your what you say career as a mobile application developer, you can probably say that I am an iOS developer or I am an Android developer. It's perfectly fine. But once you become a little bit more experienced, say around 5 years or 6 years experienced, and as you move further in your career, I think companies really don't care whether you are just an iOS developer or Android. They want a mobile application developer. So it actually helps that you know both Android application development and iOS application development, and some of who will get into say cross-platform development using say React Native. Even there it helps because React Native is not a silver bullet. You may have to do a lot of custom native development, writing basically called as a wrapper, native wrapper, which you have to do sometimes when some libraries are not available. So I would say if you have some time and if you can afford some time to develop another skill in terms of the mobile application development. I mean, if you are an Android developer, you want to pick up iOS, and if you are an iOS developer, you want to pick up Android, please do that. It helps a lot from the long-term perspective in your career as a mobile application developer. So I hope that answers your question, Srihari. So let me get into another question, Shrikant. Shrikant is the person who is answering quite a number of questions. I know him. He has been one of my oldest subscriber on my channel, and he has posted quite a number of questions on my channel. And recently, when I replied to one of his comment on the channel, it showed me that Shrikant is the person who has put most number of comments on my channel. So you are the top commentator on my channel, if I can put it in that way. So how will make decide library used in a project is open source or licensed? Since in GitHub we will find a lot of libraries. How will you decide on that? Shrikant, I would say just to go through their website, I mean, on their GitHub, and just page and see what kind of licensing they have, whether they have a Apache free license or anything. So I am not too much of an expert here, but most of the time when it is from people ask whether they have used that particular library, and that is the best way. But it's a big but. Make sure that you have properly tested the library. If it is a very simple hobby library, it is perfectly fine. But if you are using a library from the GitHub without properly testing it in a very, what you say, privacy sensitive application, say banking application, those kind of scenarios, uh, be absolutely sure about what you are doing and which particular libraries that you are including in your project. Uh, Hopefully, no suspicious things should happen using that library and compromise the robustness of your application. So pay attention to those things. So I hope that answers your question. Azan has said, sorry, sir, I think you got my question wrong. I wanted to say that I am developing an Android app in Android Studio using WebView to make it act as a. Okay, Azan. Sorry. I think now it makes a lot of sense. Okay, yeah, WebView. You're basically talking about WebView. I wanted to say that I am developing an Android app in Android Studio using a WebView to make it act like a browser app. Okay, but why do you want to do that unless you just want to port existing web? Also, all the development would happen on the backend, on the web view, web application, because here you are just rendering it. I mean, think of it just like any other browser-based. If you are doing a React.js development or AngularJS development with the backend integration with any of the MySQL or anything like that, think of it as a pure web development. And your mobile application, even though it looks like a mobile application, but at the end of the day, you are just showing it out in your browser. That's all. So yeah, treat it like that. Hope I have answered your question. Sri Hari, sir, what are co-tutors' future plans? Future plans. I think right now, just surviving through the COVID, so nothing happens. That is one of the main thing. And probably after that, completing the tutorial series that I have been doing, uh, giving some logical conclusion to them, and picking up more interesting topics. Especially, I want to complete the Kotlin fundamentals series. I want to do a little bit of Kotlin based Android application development. And I want to concentrate also towards some of the more interesting things, which very few people cover, like the unit testing of the mobile applications. Yeah, I mean, plans are there. हजारों ख्वाहिशें ऐसी कि हर ख्वाहिश पे दम निकले. But yeah, let's see what happens. Sir, I want to take a real class from you. Are you taking any future? If I do it, probably if I do it, I may do it virtual classes. But yeah, I mean, I don't, unfortunately, don't as of now. Sorry to disappoint you, Codres. Muhammad Usman, sir, Flutter versus React Native, which is the best for future? Muhammad, I just answered this particular question few moments back in the stream. If you could go back later sometime and just go through the video, you will find the answer to that particular question. So I think the respect of other people's time, I don't want to repeat myself with the same thing. So let me continue. Uh, Kotlin, okay. Then Flutter is the best for future as my in Flutter one code works for both Android and iOS. Yeah, that's what Code says. Aman sir, I want to learn architecture components, but wanted to know like what things should I know before going into that. I have recently learned about multi-threading and background services. Aman, I have a tutorial series called as Android App Architecture on my YouTube channel. I suggest you start from the very first of that particular series. It starts very, very basically. And to understand that particular tutorial series, I hope that you understand how basic Android applications are written. I mean, what is a activity, service, content provider, those very basic stuff you need to know. You should have written at least once you are comfortable as Android developer, and then you want to delve into architecture components. Then I suggest you go through that series. The response that I have got on that particular series and the comments that I have been getting on that series is itself a proof that it has helped quite a number of people, and I hope that it will be helpful to you as well. So there is another question from Prasu. Sir, I have been following your tutorial for a long time. Appreciate the way you teach through the code. Thank you, Prasu. Waiting for the your unit test case tutorial. Yeah, let me do that. Have a plan on that. Code days. I want to start mailing servers like Gmail, but I don't get any proper guidance for that. Do you have any ideas? Codrace, no, sorry, unfortunately, that's not my area of expertise. Probably you may have to look somewhere else. Sri Hari, I am a newbie, started my career as Android dev 1 year and 4 months back. Your tutorials are really helpful and clear. Thank you for all your effort. Love from Kerala. Thanks, Srihari. Glad that you could really make use of my tutorials, and I am really happy that the main intention with which I started this tutorial series, or basically that this channel, has been really helping other people, and is actually making the kind of impact that I wanted it to make. So yeah, thanks. Kiran sir, as a senior Android engineer, what things need to be taken care? Like if I am working basic Android component, is that sufficient? With 7 year plus experience, I need to update things. Dagger. Uh, Kiran, I think as a 7 year plus experienced Android developer, I would expect the people to know little bit more things, not just a UI application development. I mean, of course, I expect them to know what is an activity, fragment, dialog box, how to navigate from one activity to another activity. I mean, all the UI funda they should know, but I also expect them to know how to work with the service, multi-threading, what are all the different options that are there in the service, how the broadcast receiver works, how the content provider works. Nowadays, people really don't use content provider, but the concepts, a lot of people still don't understand what is a service, whether it works on the UI thread or a background thread. uh, then Android has made certain changes to the way a service works. Like they have introduced new concepts like job intent service, job scheduler, a job service, then a foreground service, and the push notification integration. And uh, I nowadays there is a lot of more emphasis on whether people write very good, easily readable, understandable code with the good coding practices, and with proper JUnit testing. And if you could demonstrate that you could do all this through, say, DevOps integration, then I would say you would be considered as one of the very good, what you say, mobile application developer or a senior mobile application developer. I hope that I have answered your question, Sri Hari. Not Shihari, sorry, Kiran, I think. Mohammed, you are one of the best tutor on CodeTube to learn Android devs. I have learned a lot from tutor. Thanks, Mohammed. Glad that I could be of your help. Rajesh, sir, can you release tutorials on Android security framework? Rajesh, can you be a little bit more specific? What exactly you are looking for, so that it just helps me to understand which particular topic I need to concentrate on. Uh, then another question: does learning Swift require Apple laptop? Rameshwar, uh, not really. I mean, if you want to just practice Swift and want to learn the syntax of Swift, then probably you don't need the Mac laptop, MacBook Pro, or any Mac machine. What you can even do it just on a browser. There are a lot of online browser-based playgrounds where you can just practice Swift. You can do that. You don't. And if you have a Windows machine and you want to install a Swift compiler on a Windows machine, you can do that. That's not a problem, because Swift is not just used for Mac OS development or iOS development. You can do it. You can do a lot of other things as well with that. However, if you want to concentrate on Mac related platforms, say Mac OS development, or say for example iOS development, then you would need a Mac machine, because Xcode mainly works on Mac machine. So I have seen people who use dual boot machines on Mac or Windows, but I'm not too sure how good they are in terms of the performance. If somebody has done that, please let us know. I would say in that case, you probably have to do that. Sir, can you do tutorial? Then there is another question, Mohammed Usman. Will you start Flutter series in future? Uh, Mohammed, I don't know. Probably, I mean, I have not touched any cross platforms as of now. I have not done any React Native tutorials, and I have not done any Flutter tutorials. Uh, I mean, I think the diplomatic answer would be never say never again. I mean, never say never. You never know whether, depending upon the future demand and the requirement and how the platform works, whether I actually end up doing a tutorial series on that. So, yeah, I mean, I would put it in that way. Then I watched Codrej says I watched all your tutorials. I like the way you teach, but to get more experience, I want to work on Android with you as an assistant. Can you take me, Codrej? No, I am a working professional in a company, and I don't do any freelancing. I don't do any freelancing. If I would have done, probably then probably I would have taken few people as assistants, and I would not even rather call them as assistants. I would just co-worker or a help guy, a friend, to help me out. But yeah, I mean, I am right now too busy with my official commitments and towards my company where I work. So yeah, I mean, the main things that I do is do my regular work 9 to 5, and whenever I have some time, or if I could squeeze in some time, create the content for my channel, a code tutor. And that itself, I am trying to make sure that I somehow complete, because getting every one video every week sometimes seems like a very big struggle. But uh, getting any new kind of freelancing development, it's literally impossible for me. But in future, if something happens, let's see. Thanks for that question. Prasu, sir, is MVP validating the edit text validation for login use case? Can do it from viewer presenter. Prasu, I have answered this particular question. We just go through the MVP tutorial series that I have done. In one of the comment section, I have answered this particular question. And probably it is a two very specific or coding related question, which can only be answered under a particular video where I have talked about it, where I have actually talked about it. So I suggest, Prasu, you go through my MVP tutorial series. You will get your answer to your question. Rajesh, sir, I mean to say that good practice to make Android more secure using Android APIs, good open source libraries. Thanks a lot for teaching. Yeah, let me see. I mean, of course, there are some good practices that you need to follow to make sure that your applications are more secure, especially when you are working on very data critical applications. So, yeah, let's see what happens. If time permits and if there is something interesting that comes up, I will definitely do the tutorials. Manoj Rai has the last question. Firebase ML Kit versus AR Core versus OpenCV, which is the best for face detection? I would say, depending upon the performance, they are one of the best in their own individual, what you say, domain. If you are mainly into Google ecosystem, you would end up using Firebase. And if you are mainly into Apple ecosystem, then probably you end up using AR Core. OpenCV is a open source thing. So, so I would say from the mobile application perspective, nowadays most of the face detection even happens on the mobile device itself. I mean, if you see the Pixel devices and the all Apple devices, they claim that they don't send any data from the device to the backend. So all those things happen on the device itself. I don't know whether how much of that we can trust, because you always come back with new reports saying that that's not what they are doing. But yeah, I mean, I would say in terms we need not at a mobile application layer, we need not even worry which one is better. They are almost all of them are as good as any other one. Hope Manoj that answers your question. And Code Race, can I know which company you are working in right now? Uh, I am working in Shell right now. And if you want to know what is my whole history, you can just visit my LinkedIn page. You will come to know everything about my whole history of where I have worked and what is my work history. Helps you. So yeah, I think this has been a really good streaming session. Thanks a lot. Uh, Aditya Chauhan, sir, why you have stopped creating Android videos on Java? I have not stopped. It is just that I choose tutorials in a round robin fashion. I do a few Kotlin and then few Android, and then I come back with something else. So it is just that I have been a little bit busy that I have not been able to put enough number of videos on a regular basis because of some time crunch. Yeah, that is the reason. Otherwise, but I am continuing right now. Actually, under the Android tutorial series, I was doing something on, I would say, location-based services. Uh, I had stopped it because of one particular reason. I have explained it actually, and I will just going to come back. I will be continuing from there. Sir, have you stopped? Yeah, that's it. Uh, there is another question, stuff like Fabrics Analytics migrate to Firebase. Probably it is too particular thing. I don't have anything to say about that. For lead position in mobile platform, do we need to have knowledge in iOS and Android both, or can continue to work in Android for advanced concepts? Kiran, I would say it mainly depends on the individual company, individual project. But I would say if you are in the mobile application domain, you better concentrate on both the platforms. And also another thing that we need to understand is that just because you know both the platforms, that doesn't mean you will get to work on both of them at the same time. You typically get on to one particular platform, probably you work on say Android for a few months, And once you are done with, and if you are lucky, then probably you will get to work on, say, iOS. But it is good to know both the platforms. That's what I would put it. That's how I would put it. Does your company offer any internships? I think so, but I am not too sure. I don't typically get into these things in terms of hiring. Prasu, are you from Bangalore? Yeah, uh, you can say that. The XML way of creating Vue in Android. Not too sure, but some people claim to do say that. But let's see what happens. Uh, So once again, thanks for Rameshwar, Gaurav, Srihari, Shrikant, Manoj, who contributed on the live chat. Now, once again, taking a few more questions. Shrikant, please host this conversation video on your channel. Of course, Shrikant, this will be hosted on the channel. Later point in time, if anybody wants to go back and visit any of these questions that you had asked or the conversation that we had, we can always have a revisit to these things. Ashish has a question. How many years back you start learning Android and how much time it take to build an average app for a Play Store intermediate? Let me put it this way. I come from a way long time back. I was a Java J2E developer. I was mainly into Java backend development. I was not even into Android application development. I got into Android application development in 2010, and since 2010, I have been predominantly a native Android developer. But recently, I have done a little bit of cross-platform development as well. So I would say I have delved into kind of mobile application development for now almost a decade. Uh, I got into Android when there was Android Enclave, I believe. So it has been quite some time that I have been into Android application development. And Shrikant, so I hope that answers your question. And how much time does it take to build an average app? It depends. I mean, it depends upon the individual application. It could be very simple, depending upon how many screens you have, what kind of integrations you have. It could take anything between 1 week to 1 month to even many months to year also. There is no definite answer for that. Then what is the salary package for an Android developer having 3 years of experience? This is highly what you say relative answer. I mean, I cannot say what exactly. It depends upon the company. I mean, for example, in Google, for a 3 year experienced developer, they could give a very good give a very good package. But in some of the service sector companies, I might be it might be much less. So I cannot comment. I mean, you can go and check on a lot of these websites like Indeed, and then there is another website called as Glassdoor. These are not the paid promotions for those websites, by the way. So you can just go and check for a particular kind of years of experience, what kind of packages they are offering. Most of these things are available in the open platform. I clearly cannot tell what is the number. I don't have a number to give you. And Codrace, this live session was really awesome. When will be the next awesome session? Don't know. I don't know. This is the first session. Do you want it every once in a month, every week? Once in a month sounds good to me. Let me know. I think once in a month sounds very good because I think every week there might not be enough things to say and probably enough things to ask also. So once in a month should be a good. Let me know if is 1 month is good enough time. Once in a 1 month. So, do you have any plans? to take sessions on Android framework or AOSP. What is AOSP? Uh, I mean, Android framework is a very, what you say, a broad term. For example, whatever the current things that I actually do on CodeTutor actually does involve a lot of Android frameworks. Probably you can say what particular thing would be good. So, for example, as a part of the MVVM series, I did do a lot of what you say, uh, Android Jetpack related frameworks that I talked about. So it depends. It depends upon the individual topic. So Android open source project, I don't know, Aditya. Probably I'm not too much into those things. And if I don't know something about, I don't know anything about it, it would be wrong to talk about it. You always go for the people who do actual hands-on related stuff on that and try to get the information from those people to be able to trust it. If I have not done it, probably I might be the wrong person to say anything to it. So I think we are slowly getting into the fag end of our conversation. Thanks for all the people who have contributed as a part of the live chat, and thanks for all the people who joined the session and asked the questions. And I hope that this session was really helpful. So thanks for that. So let me take one last question from Rameshwar. Can we obfuscate a activity name? If yes, how? And please make a tutorial. For that, we use ProGuard. That's the way. You can just check ProGuard in Android application development, and you should be on the right track to get the answer for that. So yeah, thanks. Thanks for everybody who joined this particular session. Thanks a lot. Thanks.